things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024, and we spoke with more than 200 people, almost all of whom were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election.
Hi, welcome to the Reaction Report. We're going to be diving into some issues today. You know, regardless of whatever your political opinion is, whether you're on the left side or the right side, this segment has to do with alleged deterioration of President Biden's health. Now, whether folks actually knew about this and did nothing, you know, it's very, very embarrassing. This is the president of the United States of America. He deserved better treatment than this. Like, why did Congress and everyone else let these things go by and didn't inform anyone? You know, this just shows me, you know, and it should show all of you as well, the lengths that political representatives would take and go for a political goal. And all of this, disheartening and distasteful as it is, was for a political gain. You didn't care about this guy's health. Let's get into this.
The possibility that he may need to use a wheelchair if he won re-election because his physical health had deteriorated so much. That scoop out this morning from Axios. It's one of the many details in the soon-to-be-released new book titled Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. It was written by Axios' Alex Thompson and CNN's own Jake Tapper. Jake is here to join us now. I'm curious about what his advisors were saying at the time as you look at this, as you reported out this book.
So the White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, was telling White House aides that President Biden's deterioration of his spine, the degeneration, was so significant that if he fell one more time, that he might have to be in a wheelchair and serve in a wheelchair for his second term. But everybody pushed off the notion that he use a wheelchair until after the election. This is all part of a larger whole.
There, you know, he's saying that everyone is pushing off the notion of it. So at this point, his health didn't matter. It didn't mean anything. It's all, again, for a political point. You know, that's why I've said time and time again on this show, it doesn't matter, you know, what the truth is. As long as you speak the truth can be truth. It could be something that you want to hear, or it could be something you don't want to hear. But, you know, you can't just go with the things you want to hear and that you like. It comes both ways. You have to accept it both, you know.
Where the Biden White House tried to hide the extent of his deterioration, both physical and cognitive, as much as possible. In fact, as we all saw, as his shuffling gait got worse and worse from 2003 to 2004, they started putting aides around him as he walked to Marine One, the helicopter that was to kind of hide from public view how bad his gait was, how bad his walking was, his shuffling, and also in case he stumbled,
wow,
make sure somebody was there. And this is just a piece of an overall campaign to try to conceal from the American people the extent to which the president was really struggling to do his job.
You have an entire White House.
You just heard what the gentleman said. Now, keep in mind that media and everybody was asking questions about the president's health. Was it declining? And then they were like, no, he's fine, you know, from his press secretary all the way down to the vice president, you know. Again, at what point would you step up and say, no, he's not well? Like, if you say he's not well, what can possibly go wrong? Like, there's a vice president. God forbid something happens, the vice president would step in and take command. But, like, why would you lie and put this gentleman's health in jeopardy, again, for political gain? Wow. When I tell you that this is so distasteful, you know, I've seen animals in the wild tend to have more affection for their enemies than what I'm seeing with politics here. This is just
press corps, though, following him around. And I'm just curious as to whether or not this kind of trying to hide what was happening with the president at the time had an impact on the press corps. Like, why didn't we hear some of these details from what they actually saw and were dealing with trying to get information?
Well, Alex Thompson and I were on the case, as were lots of other reporters, trying to figure out what was going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024. And we spoke with more than 200 people, most of whom, almost all of whom, were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. And then after the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes with details that Democrats wouldn't share with us until after Election Day.
Are you hearing anything from President Biden himself about any of this? Is he responding to any of this?
So he was on The View last week. And Alyssa Farah-Griffin, one of our commentators and also obviously a host there, asked him about our book. Specifically, she said to us later it was about our book, about the fact that sources were saying these things about him behind closed doors, and are they wrong? And the president said they were wrong, but he doesn't obviously know what's in the book as of now. His spokesman, who wouldn't go on the record, told Axios in the excerpt that Alex and Axios published this morning that nobody can point to any result of this alleged deterioration that meant a decision was bad or any impact on the country, to which I just say, stay tuned. We got a lot more coming out, including on The Lead today at 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll have more from Original Sin.
The behind-the-scenes details of how President Biden's closest aides privately discussed putting him into a wheelchair if he had won re-election. This new reporting out today in Axios and coming from the new book by CNN's Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson of Axios. The book is called Original Sin: President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. The author's writing this in part: Biden's physical deterioration, most apparent in his halting walk, had become so severe that there were internal discussions about putting the president in a wheelchair.
Wow. Well, we're going to leave this here. They said that they're going to have another conference at 5 o'clock. We'll definitely be diving into that. What is your take on this? You know, as usual, please, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you can, just drop a comment in the line. You know, and if you do like this, please subscribe, like, and drop a comment. Until we meet on the next one, please stay engaged and informed. See you.